Hello and welcome to Virtual Concert Hall's live music channel. My name is Chris Au and I have with me Dr. Anna Ouspenskaya, and we'll be co-hosting today's show.
Thank you, Chris. And it's a great pleasure to be back on this show, co-hosting with you and welcoming our audience back.
Yes, it's amazing. We are in part 3 of the documentary on Beethoven's Symphony No. 4, written and narrated by Lawrence Rapchak, created by New Media Productions worldwide, virtual concert halls, as well as produced by Architects of Music.
And thank you to all of the collaborators of Virtual Concert Halls on this incredible project. And I have to say, what connected us and made it all possible is our immense passion for connecting musicians and the audiences in real-time music performances, films, and other music projects from around the globe.
So, we've now entered the central development section where Beethoven continues his magic. And I'm sure you heard how he structures each phrase of the main theme with the continual use of that repeated rhythm. And these passages outline the basic harmonies of each phrase. Then they grow softer as the music is reduced to its bare organic essence now. And we're back in the void, with the repeated fragments now in the cellos. And only that little rising scale, formerly ablaze with energy, as we move from darkness to light. But now in the central development section, it's just a whisper in the first violins. And now the flute takes flight with the main theme in the key of D major, the nature key, light and airy and shimmery. And there, just as in the first movement of the Third Symphony, a completely new theme appears in the development. It's a lovely, elegant theme here played by the violins as an obligato sort of over the main theme, which is in the bassoon. Hear how Beethoven's brilliant symphonic thinking has taken those little cosmic fragments from the introduction, transformed them into his main theme. But once that big diminished chord hits this one, recalling the darkness of the introduction, the music seems to lose its way and begin to disintegrate. And this dancing main theme begins to revert to its inanimate state, completely without any expression. It keeps moving, but it's like random elements of nature now, interlocking between first and second violins, and based entirely on this diminished seventh chord, like so. I mean, what is it smooths out. And it finally settles here. This ecstatic sense of calm, and just a glint of that rising scale. And you recognize all of this. This is that explosive burst of light that shocked us out of the gloomy introduction. I'll play it very softly. But this is it now, coming from some vast, expansive distance. And the unexpected return of the lovely woodwind triad motif from long ago. But now there's just a trace of it. And you will hear one of Beethoven's most miraculous passages, this rapturous sense of calm in B major, suspended, and settling here. The tonic key of B flat major, distant timpani rolls, and now the ingenious use of that fleeting upward scale, which is now broken into little pieces in the violins, like so. In the string section, which will now accelerate and lead us across a magnificent plain, a panorama of sound, driving headlong into the recapitulation. Here is this entire passage. We're going to replay this entire astounding passage in just a minute. You won't hear it often, as I've said. Again, this symphony is usually regarded as one of Beethoven's weaker efforts, which I think is, can I use the word insane? The vision, the technical control, the flawless sense of structure as the music moves through time, as the music deconstructs and fragments. The elements suspended and floating in space, and then they begin to coalesce, to gather power, critical mass, as it were, the mutual attraction and repulsion of chaotic matter, according to Immanuel Kant. Again, am I reading too much into this music? Listen to it again, and you decide. Now, all the materials from the exposition reappear to our great benefit. But as always in the sonata allegro form, everything stays in the tonic key, here a B flat major. And the coda to this first movement, beginning with that same blazing F7 chord that started it all, and the rushing scale, And Beethoven builds his coda on the interplay of the main theme's outline between the heavens above and the earth below, entirely based on the primal tonic chord of B flat major, and a final welcome appearance of that lovely woodwind triad phrase. So gentle amidst all the heaven-storming grandeur, and it seems to be descending from the heights, very pure, down to earth. And over it, a brass fanfare, the horn fifth, hovering above it all, that propels the music to its triumphant conclusion. Here is the coda. And so, when all is settled and we step back and take in the totality of this first movement and everything that surrounds it, the static, inanimate, soulless void of the introduction, those drifting fragments, and that inexplicable, solemn, liturgical phrase in the strings. And the fragments then coalesce into and if that isn't Beethoven's representation on some level of "Let there be light," which ignites the world and sets it dancing with joy, then I must be misreading things. Then again, when Beethoven said, "My world is the universe," maybe he really meant it.
I feel like there's much more I could say after that. That was really incredible.
Yeah, my world is the universe, and we were witnessing the universal approach to the universe of Beethoven's music. And I wanted to start by bringing Larry's own words. Somewhere in that short paragraph of the film, he's saying, "Oh, well, maybe I'm reading too much into this music." And I wanted to ask you, Chris, how do you feel the answer should go?
Wow, that's a very good question. Obviously, as a conductor and as someone who's studied his music very much, Larry has the right to go into this kind of detail. I think people wouldn't hesitate at all to dive into works of literature in this sort of detail, not just historically, but also philosophically. And I think this is what he's trying to hit on with this episode. It's not merely this idea that it's music, it's history, and it represents nature, but there's something philosophical about it because of the world that he lived in, especially when he talks about, he's quoting Immanuel Kant, the mutual attraction or repulsion of chaotic matter. This sort of thing doesn't just come from a study of the musical text. It comes from a lot more bigger picture. So I don't think he's reading too much. Perhaps other people may not agree. And I recently had an interesting conversation with a music lover, an audience, someone from the audience, and donors of a music organization. And she just said to me, "Chris, I don't need all this information. I love how you're giving me all this context and everything, but sometimes I just want to sit back and enjoy and just listen and let it wash all over me." So for a person like that, this is probably too much, maybe too much going on. But I don't ever think it's too much. It depends on the person, and it depends on the kind of curiosity which people listen to music. Don't you think people also listen to music in different ways? Some people listen very visually, and they need to see an orchestra in order to sort of some people like to see the score. Some people like to just let it wash over them. I don't know. What do you think about? I think this, to answer your question, I think it depends on how you enjoy music. just like how you enjoy any sort of art?
I think music has enormous amount of applications to
Yeah,
use a very pedestrian word to it, but it serves so many different purposes. And for instance, I don't complain when people use music as a background, even classical music, even my own recordings, as a
I don't
background
mind.
for
Yeah,
driving or for cooking or doing something else, because music has that energy which creates sort of a magnetic field emotionally, and it has that whether you're listening with a huge amount of attention to it, or very little amount of attention, it still communicates with you. So we respond to music, to all the sounds around us in an emotional way. So even the use of music as a background, I think it's totally
yeah,
appropriate. And it's much better than using noise as a background. Organized
yes,
noise, which music is. Now, but that's a very surface like, of course, use or relationship with music. But you go a little deeper and you want to maybe listen to the piece from the beginning to the end and just sit back and enjoy the flow of it, and you don't really intend to understand anything more than just the flow of the sounds which were created for you by the great Beethoven or someone else, and
yeah,
that is totally appropriate as well. So the music we connect with music on so many different levels and so many different
yeah.
layers, that that's what makes music so attractive, and a form of art which never goes old because of that. And there is also, like you said, there's another level of connecting with music, which is trying to peek into what Beethoven connected with the process of composing it. And that requires a very niche specific curiosity on the person's part, and not everyone wants to engage in it. And that's totally fine as
Well,
well.
that's the thing. I think that it depends, like you said, the curiosity of the person. I think I like to propose that the way you listen to music or enjoy art, it tells a lot about who you are, and it tells a lot
Oh
about
my
what kind of
gosh.
person.
Chris, you're putting everyone on the judgment plate.
Well, I mean, a little bit. I mean, it's interesting.
Go for
Also,
it, yeah.
perhaps the emotional state of where you're at too is a really good. To answer sort of your question about the curiosity of the person, or I think it's if you just need music to help you get through something in life, and that a lot of people use that, but and it's fantastic for it. If you need music to stimulate you and give you ideas, or if you think of music as a way to escape from the troubles and the challenges of the world, I don't think that would really impact the way you listen to music. And some people just hear music. Some people just sort of let it go from one ear to the other, and they had a good time. Some people get really bored by classical music. But I think the thing about classical music that is sometimes makes I think it makes live performances sometimes difficult for some audience members is that it really has to you have to engage with it. You can't merely, unless you listen to a lot of concerts, just sort of let it hit you and then you feel just absolutely empowered immediately, unless you have a lot of exposure to it. I think if you're an audience member that hasn't been to many concerts, these kind of shows and these documentaries, these sort of things can really help because it gives a lot of context. It's not like going to a modern day concert now and all you do is like have to stand there and you're just being blasted with sound, visuals, people dancing all over the stage, and there's graphics and everything thrown at you. I think this kind of music requires of the listener to also connect with it. You have to. It's a two-way street, and I think because of that, some people may get bored because they don't know how to engage with the music, or some people may feel like this music doesn't really relate to them. However, once you start to bridge that gap, or once you start to reach in and listen and hear those themes and hear the different colors and orchestration, and then it starts to really grow on you. You really start to understand it, and it's not something that you just consume. It's sort of like food. You can sort of consume anything, but then what about this ingredient? What about this thing and how it's cooked this way? And then the more you know, suddenly things open up and you enjoy
Oh,
it better.
I like your comparison with food because definitely music of that level of complexity, like Beethoven's, is an acquired taste. There's no question about it, and it is a gourmet meal, and it has the beauty and the satisfaction of that. The more
Yeah.
you get, just like you said, the more you get into enjoying the ingredients in there and the whole and how the ingredients connect into the hall, and so that's absolutely true. And I like how Larry is so keenly aware of that because he I want to backtrack and say something about connecting with with music. Everyone definitely connects with music on different levels and in different areas and aspects, and sometimes combined, and from day to day it can change. For me personally, and I think Larry, I share it with Larry, there's one aspect of connecting with music which is of special curiosity for me, and that is the possibility to, well, of course it's imaginary, but not completely out of reality, but the possibility to connect with the thinking and emotional process of the composer himself. And
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
as Larry goes layer by layer into how that music was constructed and what went into that, like going into references in letters and from Beethoven's life and images. Of course, the Virtual Concert Halls team added images to that. It really grows like the roots into what predated this completely polished, beautiful product as a symphony. But
Yeah.
what predated is Beethoven conceiving the idea, then putting it in writing, and then combining the elements and combining it according to his plan. And it's almost like Beethoven is a man, Beethoven is a creator, starts coming alive. And isn't that an incredible opportunity for anyone to almost like speak with the creator himself of that symphony
Yeah.
through all those imageries and all those references to, like you said, philosophy and the scope of cosmic imagery and even the theatrical elements in Larry's narration style, how he changes. He's so theatrical sometimes, how he goes
Yes, yes,
into the
yes, yes.
whisper and then he raises his voice, and
Yeah.
it's also musical. It's just a really excellent way to engage with, like, a lot of times people ask, well, classical music, it's overrated. What's in there? I think it's a very good introduction for anyone who is actually curious what's in there, to find out, that world opens into science, philosophy, imagery, scope,
Yeah.
cosmic, everything. And it really does, because I totally believe in it through my own research and through working on these films with Lawrence Rapchak. Beethoven actually did put all those elements into his
Yeah.
creation, and in the end, the outgoing result, it carries all that context. It's not just historical context and history, of course, too, but it's all of the knowledge and all of the Beethoven's experience, and he was really, really encyclopedically educated man. So, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's what makes music, like classical music, a difficult thing to wrap your head around. I mean, people, let's talk about literature, and you can very easily read something that's a cheap, quick, thriller read. You can also read a book that's quite popular, needs a little bit of work, but it's engaging. It comes to you. And then there are like the great works of literature that we know, whether it is Dostoevsky, Tolstoy, whether it is Tolkien, or any of the even bigger classics that we have out there. And those are condensed works of everything, just like classical music. It's not just a story. It's a story that tries to tell another story, and then you have characters that represent and symbolize different archetypes of our being. and they discuss philosophy, which then makes us feel a certain way. They give models and of what relationships could look like between certain people and how they interact with societal issues. And so you start to see that there's a whole web of philosophy, history, art, and storytelling. And I think classical music has that imbued in it, except for the fact that unless someone like Larry comes to talk to us about it or discuss it with us, Beethoven hasn't labeled these things in his notes. It's not like, oh, this chord here, this represents this. This note here, this instrument playing that, that's this. He's written us very little. And so it really requires of someone like Larry to open it for us, and it requires a great team at Virtual Concert Halls and everybody else to also put a wonderful video together and for us to talk about it, because I think that's what creates the narrative of what Beethoven was really thinking, the inner mind, so we can understand his universe. But at the same time, you can just listen to it and enjoy it without knowing too much as well. It's
Absolutely.
this sort of, you choose your adventure.
It's exactly, that's a very good way to put it, Chris. You choose your adventure. This is a very good way to conclude our program for today.
Yeah.
And I want
think so
to
too.
thank everyone who's been watching.
Yeah, and thank you to our team and our collaborators as well. You know, I think this is a wonderful thing that we're doing, and I'm learning a lot from it. And talking about it helps me to understand these symphonies even more. So, New Media Productions, Virtual Concert Halls, Architects of Music, and of course, the amazing Lawrence Rapchak. A big hand to them, a round of applause, because they've just been incredible and putting all this together. And I hope everyone watching is going to really enjoy it.
Yeah, and come out more enriched and more curious about what's that classical music? Why all this buzz about it, right? And I want to also invite everyone to check out our many programs and productions which we put out throughout the season. Check out our music and musicians from around the globe daily show. We present artists, concerts, educational and music film projects. And if you're interested to be featured on our show, please get in touch. We are always curious to find out what you're doing, what your plans are, how you approach music and music projects, and how it goes into the modern society in the world. And for all of our current and future events, and there are many events for performers, for the audience to engage with each other and with us, please go to all of our websites, SanJosPacificoCompetition.com, virtualconcerthalls.com, progressivemusicians.com, callorchestra.com, and many other websites of our wonderful collaborators.
Yes, and we've been doing amazing shows. This has been an incredible season. And with this, I'm going to end the show, and I look forward to part 4 of our Beethoven 4 documentary series coming up very soon. We'll see you all very soon. Bye for now.
See you soon. Bye now.
No matter where you are or who you are, music connects us all. We started with a dream, but now we are paving the future. Welcome to the Sound Expressiva Global Competition. Fully virtual, yet bringing musicians closer together than ever before, now on a global scale. True live, inclusivity, diversity, connection, community, an extraordinary array of judges. Get noticed by companies all over the world. Prizes, scholarships, performance opportunities. Apply to be a part of the most exciting congregation of artists like nothing you've ever seen before. We guarantee quality and leave no musician behind. We can't wait to hear you on the virtual stage.